Greetings, friends. You're watching the Ruslan Belov channel, and today we'll take a detailed look at the situation in Ukraine as of October 16, 2025. The day has been full of events, major announcements, new developments, and critical strikes. So let's get straight to it. Only a matter of hours, perhaps a day, give or take, remain before the President of the United States is expected to make a worldwide announcement. Will Ukraine receive Tomahawk missiles or not? At this moment, it is confirmed that the head of the Ukrainian Presidential Office, Andriy Yermak, and the Secretary of the National Security Council, Rustem Umerov, are both in Washington. They are holding meetings with representatives of American defense contractors and, according to several reports, are also in contact with the manufacturers of the Tomahawk cruise missile itself. Let me remind you that the meeting between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky is scheduled for tomorrow. Most analysts believe that during or right after this meeting, the American president will announce the transfer of a batch of Tomahawks to Kiev, somewhere between 20 and 50 units. Meanwhile, Western media are circulating footage showing a ground-based Tomahawk launcher. It's not a ship or an aircraft, it's simply a truck equipped with multiple vertical launch tubes. It's important to note that there are two versions of this system. One is manually operated, the other is fully automated and unmanned. The one seen in those videos can be controlled remotely via the internet and satellite link. In practice, that means the system can launch missiles from virtually anywhere on the planet. No military operators are needed inside Ukraine. Obviously, Ukrainian personnel will not be trained to use such systems. Control will remain entirely in American hands. And that brings the world closer to an extremely dangerous threshold. With only hours left until the Trump-Zelensky meeting, it's clear that this event could determine the next stage of the conflict. Meanwhile, inside Ukraine, the fighting continues. But before we move to the front lines, we should look at what's happening domestically. Ukraine's Ministry of Energy officially reported that last night the country experienced widespread power outages. In some regions, there were full-scale blackouts, with electricity disappearing simultaneously across several provinces. These disruptions are the result of Russian strikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure in recent weeks. However, there's another side to this story. Since 2022, Ukrainian officials have often exaggerated the scale of the damage to present a more catastrophic picture to Western donors. The worse the situation looks, the higher the chances of receiving new financial aid, weapons, and political support. That's why all current claims about a total energy collapse should be viewed with caution. The real situation may become clear only after tomorrow's Trump-Zelensky meeting. And it would not be surprising if power miraculously returns across the country immediately afterward. Still, Russian strikes are causing real damage. Today, footage from the city of Nizhyn in the Chernihiv region confirmed that 6 Geran drones struck a Nova Poshta logistics building, which was reportedly used for military purposes. A large fire broke out as a result. Strikes were also recorded in Chernihiv and Kharkiv, although much of the footage is blurred, making it difficult to identify the exact targets. From the Poltava region came clearer videos showing a missile hit on a gas transport facility. The recordings confirm that a gas storage or compressor station was completely destroyed. Ukrainian officials claim that up to 60% of the country's gas infrastructure has now been wiped out by Russian missiles and drones. Another major development came from the south. For the first time since the beginning of the special military operation, a guided aerial bomb strike was carried out against the city of Mykolaiv. The city lies roughly 60 kilometers from the front line, and, according to sources, the strike was launched from a distance of about 150 kilometers, well beyond the combat zone. This means that the range of Russian aerial bombs has significantly increased. Until now, such strikes were recorded mostly in the Zaporizhzhia area. Ukrainian sources also claim that a training camp in the south was hit, resulting in personnel losses. This suggests that Russia is now entering a new phase, expanding both the reach and the power of its air-dropped munitions. In the coming weeks, such strikes are expected to grow in number and intensity. Now let's move directly to the front line, specifically the Zaporizhzhia axis. Since early morning, channels affiliated with the Vostok grouping have published messages urging Ukrainian units in the areas of Havrilivka, Podhavrilivka, Velikomykhailivka, Aristopol, Vishneve, Uspenivka, and Poltavka, to lay down their arms and surrender. Essentially, this includes the entire sector of responsibility of the Vostok Formation. This call should not be taken literally, but rather as an indirect signal pointing to where Russian forces are likely preparing to advance next. As before, the main tactical objectives remain the Uspenivka and Poltavka fortified areas. Particular attention is now focused on Velikomikhylivka and Havrilivka, the very line of Ukrainian defense running along the Volchia River. Judging by the scale of artillery strikes and the growing activity of reconnaissance and attack drones, the Russian army is methodically preparing for assault operations. This section of the front may become decisive in the coming days. How fast and how effectively these operations develop will determine the fate of the entire southeastern defensive line. Thus, October 16, 2025 has become a day of suspense and mounting tension. On one hand, heavy battles and strikes across Ukraine continue. On the other, the whole world is waiting for Donald Trump's statement, a moment that could decide whether the conflict escalates to a new and far more dangerous phase, or whether it remains on the brink. Either way, the next 24 hours will be crucial. By this time tomorrow, we will know whether Washington has truly decided to hand over Tomahawk missiles to Kyiv, a move that could forever change not only the course of this war, but the balance of power worldwide. According to multiple reports, over the past day, Russian forces have also significantly improved their positions on several frontline sectors. Yesterday, the Russian Ministry of Defense, together with the Vostok Command, confirmed the full capture of the village of Alexeyevka. Footage of objective control was released, showing how the battles unfolded and how Russian units secured control over the area. Today, new data indicate that the Vostok grouping is advancing further north toward the settlement of Aristopol. Judging by ground movement and the ongoing appeals to Ukrainian troops to abandon their positions, it's likely that Russian forces are preparing to storm Aristopol. The settlement lies on the Russian-held side of the Volchia River, providing a bridgehead for further progress toward the northern bank and the direction of Velikomikhylivka. At the same time, reports have emerged of similar calls for surrender directed at Ukrainian units stationed in Havrilivka. In this sector, Russian troops are currently fighting for control of Ivanivka. The fighting there is fierce, with heavy close-quarters clashes. According to available information, assault groups are acting decisively, and the overall initiative now belongs to the Russian side. If Ivanivka falls completely under Russian control, the army will have two possible options for further advancement. One toward Havrilivka, and another toward Novopavlivka. Progress toward Novopavlivka has been observed for over a week. Earlier reports mentioned the village of Filia and the forested area between Filia and Ivanivka. This zone is now believed to be under Russian control. Today, Ukrainian sources published drone footage showing FPV strikes against Russian positions south of Novopavlivka. These videos confirm that Russian units have crossed the Volchia River and are actively advancing along tree lines and the T-0428 road toward the settlement. Fighting here remains intense. Simultaneously, Russian forces are attacking Ukrainian defenses from the northeast, from the directions of Mariivka and Muravka, where heavy artillery and multiple launch rocket systems are actively targeting enemy positions. Overall, the Russian army has fully seized the initiative on this part of the front. The offensive is developing along several axes at once, with particular focus on the areas of Velikomikhylivka and Havrilivka. Velikomikhylivka, located on the Ukrainian side of the Volchia River, remains a strategically important stronghold in this sector. We now move to the next direction, the Pokrovsk front. Fewer reports are coming from here today, but they are significant. Yesterday, the Russian Ministry of Defense officially announced full control over the settlement of Novopavlivka. Released footage shows the course of the battle and Russian soldiers raising their national flags in several parts of the village, confirming its complete liberation. According to updated data from military observers, after securing Novopavlivka, Russian forces have begun to advance northward along the railway line, from the area of Chunishin toward the settlement of Hnatovka. So far, this is the only reported adjustment to the situation in this sector. No other notable changes have been confirmed. In addition, new videos appeared showing strikes on the temporary deployment sites of Ukraine's 117th Brigade. The offensive effort in this direction continues, with Russian units steadily pushing toward the city of Mirnohrad. As of today, updated information is coming in from the front. According to military analysts, after securing Novopavlivka, Russian units began moving north along the railway line, from the area of Chunishin toward the settlement of Hanatovka. This is the only confirmed adjustment on this sector of the front over the past 24 hours. No other notable changes have been recorded so far. In addition, new footage has emerged showing strikes on the temporary deployment sites of Ukraine's 117th Brigade. Combat activity in this area remains high, with Russian assault groups steadily developing their offensive toward the city of Mirnohrad. Today, several independent sources reported that Russian forces have entrenched themselves in the eastern part of Mirnohrad. This includes not only the neighborhoods of Balahan and Kazatske, which were mentioned in official reports a few days earlier, but also new districts where assault units have pushed forward. More and more reports suggest that fighting is now taking place inside the city itself. Ukraine's defense here appears partially broken, with its forces retreating toward the central, western, and northwestern sectors of the city, where they are likely attempting to establish a new defensive line. At the same time, pro-Ukrainian mapping projects have released their own battlefield updates. They claim that Ukrainian formations have advanced northeast of the Pokrovsk agglomeration, toward the areas of Kucherev Yar, Mayak, and Pankivka. According to these maps, several forest belts and adjacent fields have reportedly come under Ukrainian control in the past 24 hours. However, such claims should be viewed with caution. Let me remind you that tomorrow is the scheduled meeting between Trump and Zelensky, where the US president is expected to announce either the delivery of Tomahawk missiles or a new large-scale military aid package. That's why the current Ukrainian statements about counteroffensives and reports of new energy outages may well be part of an information campaign ahead of this announcement. Kyiv is clearly trying to convince Washington and its Western allies that the Ukrainian army remains capable of counterattacking and retaining initiative on the battlefield. The real picture will likely become clearer after the negotiations conclude. Until then, all such battlefield updates should be treated with skepticism. There is every reason to believe that the current Ukrainian counterattacks are largely symbolic. Demonstrative actions meant to sustain Western interest and justify further arms deliveries. Now we move to the northern front, the Siversk sector and the area of Lyman. There have been relatively few updates from here over the past day, yet the situation remains tense. Russian forces continue methodically pushing Ukrainian FPV drone operators out of Siversk, expanding their control westward beyond the city limits. All of this is part of the gradual preparation for future assault operations. When exactly the storming of Siversk will begin remains unknown, but it's evident that the preparatory phase is already underway. Next, let's turn to the northernmost directions, Volchansk and Kupiansk. Starting with Volchansk, several sources reported today that Russian troops have significantly improved their positions in the western and northwestern parts of the city. It's confirmed that the Sinelnikivsky forest has been fully taken under control, and Russian units have advanced directly up to the T-104 highway. This route is of critical importance, effectively the only reliable supply road connecting Volchansk to Kharkiv and sustaining the Ukrainian grouping operating in the northeastern part of the Kharkiv region. If Russian forces manage to clear southern Volchansk and cut the road, the entire northeastern part of the region will be left without supplies, leading to a collapse of Ukraine's defensive system. Volchansk is turning into one of the longest and most exhausting battles of this phase of the war. But judging by current dynamics, its end is near. All signs indicate that this confrontation could be resolved before the end of this year.